The moment his hand tightened on my wrist, all the laughter, all the clinking glasses vanished. My heart pounded, not from the crowd, but from the man smiling beside me, the man everyone thought was perfect. No one knew the bruises hidden beneath my sleeve. No one knew the whispered threats at home, the nights I cried alone in silence, pretending to be his obedient wife. And here I was, trapped in plain sight, in front of the people who respected him, while every instinct screamed that tonight I could finally turn the tables. He smiled at coworkers, shook hands, and kissed cheeks, presenting the image of the perfect husband. But every glance he threw at me reminded me of the years I had spent silent, trapped by his charm and manipulation. I had given up my career, my independence, everything because he convinced me that staying home was the only way to keep our life together. And for years, I had pretended it was fine. Weeks ago, a message changed everything. One of his own employees reached out, a woman I had never met, but whose story mirrored mine in terrifying clarity. She had once dated the boss, a man who colluded with my husband, who smiled at the gala as if untouchable. She had believed his lies, thinking she was special, only to be discarded for a younger intern. Silenced to keep her job, she had suffered quietly, until she realized I was living the same nightmare at home. Her words were simple but incendiary. "You are not alone. You can end this." I followed him through the crowd, heart racing, pretending to admire his charisma as everyone else did. But I noticed the subtle signs, the nods from the boss, protective smiles from executives, signals that they thought their power was absolute. They were arrogant, blind, and that blindness would be their undoing. Every whisper, every hidden shove, every night of gaslighting flashed through my mind. But alongside that fear was the quiet, burning realization that I had been preparing all along. Every text, every photo, every secret confession I had gathered was a weapon, and I was ready to wield it. Tonight would be the first night they would see me for what I had become. Not a passive wife, but a calculated force they had underestimated. Across the room, I caught her eye. The ally, the woman who had first sent me the message that sparked my courage. Her imperceptible nod told me she knew what was coming, and that she trusted me to take the step I had spent months planning. It was a silent bond, forged in shared pain and quiet defiance. I adjusted my sleeve to cover the bruise, held my head high, and let the crowd think I was just the perfect wife, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. But every nerve in my body screamed anticipation. Every detail had been accounted for. The proof, the plan, the inevitable unraveling of the men who thought themselves untouchable, all ready, waiting for the perfect moment. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. Not the illusion my husband maintained, but true power, the kind born from patience, precision, and preparation. And as the orchestra played on, I reminded myself silently, tonight, silence ends. Tonight, justice begins. The champagne flowed, the orchestra swelled, and my husband laughed as if nothing in the world could touch him. But every smile he threw across the room reminded me that he had underestimated me. Every subtle glance from colleagues, every protective nod from the boss, was a piece of the puzzle I had been waiting to assemble. They thought they were untouchable. I knew otherwise. I drifted through the crowd, keeping close to him while appearing compliant. But inside, my mind was racing. Each whispered compliment to his coworkers, each playful touch, every boast about his work achievements, the arrogance, the false perfection, was evidence of their control. And yet, all of it would work against them. Every interaction, every word they said tonight was recorded in my memory, ready to be leveraged. Across the room, my ally watched quietly. Her presence was subtle, almost invisible to everyone else, but it gave me a steadying focus. She had endured the same cruelty, the same lies, the same manipulations, and had survived. Now she guided me silently, signaling small cues. He's about to reveal too much, or wait for the right moment. Her experience became my shield and compass. The tension built with every step. He moved with confidence, unaware that I had hidden proof. Texts he thought were private, emails that revealed collusion, photos capturing moments of manipulation, and documented confessions from past victims. I had spent months organizing it all, knowing that a single misstep could ruin everything. But tonight the room would witness a reckoning they would never forget. I felt the familiar surge of fear, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was fuel. Each memory of nights spent crying alone, each silent apology I had forced myself to whisper, had hardened into strategy. Every subtle threat, every hidden shove, had led me to this moment. I was calm now, precise, patient, and utterly prepared. As my husband laughed at a joke only he and the boss understood, I took note of their arrogance. Every word, every gesture was a thread, and I held the scissors. I could see the crowd beginning to notice minor cracks. A shift in his smile, a twitch in his confidence. The audience was unknowingly primed for what was coming. I adjusted my sleeve once more, hiding the last sign of past abuse. Every nerve in my body pulsed with anticipation. I moved through the room, weaving between friends and colleagues, appearing submissive while planning my next move. Tonight, the public facade of perfection would crumble, layer by layer, and no one would be able to stop it. The orchestra's crescendo mirrored the rapid beating of my heart. And then, a small signal from my ally, a subtle nod toward the projector screen, the microphone, the place where evidence would become truth, told me the time was near. Everything we had prepared, every piece of proof meticulously gathered was ready. And the audience, blissfully unaware, was about to witness a truth that would change everything. For the first time in years, I felt untouchable, not because of charm, not because of wealth, but because of preparation, patience, and precision. And as the gala swirled around me in glittering ignorance, I reminded myself silently, in a few moments, silence would end. Tonight, the reckoning begins. The moment had arrived. The gala room, once full of laughter and admiration for my husband, now felt like a stage set for reckoning. I felt the weight of every hidden bruise, every silent night, every manipulated word I had endured. But this time, it was my strength that carried me forward. Across the room, my ally's subtle glance confirmed. It was time. I stepped toward the microphone, my voice calm but deliberate. "Everyone here admires my husband," I began, letting the words hang, drawing eyes like magnets. But no one knows the full story. Gasps rippled across the room, the orchestra faltering as attention shifted. My husband's confident smile flickered for the first time. With a tap on the projector, images appeared. Screenshots of messages, emails exposing collusion, photos proving manipulation. The room froze. The boss, once untouchable, suddenly looked smaller, his smirk gone. My husband's hand reached for mine reflexively, but I pulled back, showing him for the first time the power I had quietly amassed. He had silenced me for years, now the world was listening. Whispers erupted, co-workers whispering and pointing, colleagues exchanging shocked glances. "This isn't true," he stammered, voice cracking under scrutiny. But the proof was undeniable. Every lie, every hidden abuse, every cover-up was displayed before the audience he had always controlled. The facade shattered, and the air was electric with the justice he never expected. My ally remained at my side, a quiet pillar of solidarity. She had survived similar deception at the hands of the boss and knew how to endure the chaos. Together, we watched as the men who had once dominated every room, every conversation, every career trajectory, realized they were powerless, not through anger, not through force, but through meticulous preparation, evidence, and the patience of someone they had underestimated. And then, as the room reeled from the revelation, I let the final layer unfold. The legal documents, quietly filed, had already secured my victory. Divorce papers granting full custody of our home, financial settlements, and public accountability had been prepared. He would leave this night not just socially exposed, but stripped of control. The crowd didn't see the quiet satisfaction as I imagined it. They only saw a composed woman, standing tall, but inside, the triumph was complete. As the room descended into murmurs, shocked faces, and diverted eyes, I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. The men had been arrogant, careless, and cruel, and now they were undone by their own overconfidence. The ally at my side offered a small, satisfied smile, and I knew we had done what silence and fear had previously prevented. I straightened my posture, looked across the room at the chaos we had orchestrated, and felt the full weight of control settle in. For the first time in years, I was free. Not just from abuse, but from the fear that had kept me silent. And as the gala continued around us, the world finally saw the truth. The woman they thought powerless had been planning, waiting, and ultimately winning all along. Tonight, silence ended. Tonight, justice was complete.